Um, okay, folks, today I want to talk to you about an intervention that I did not make up, but I think it could be useful for maybe a huge majority of Americans who just want to avoid agonizing physical pain. So, credit for this goes to a previously mentioned person who goes by Alga Calypso. It's Andres Gomez Emelson, okay? Um, I'm not really familiar with this guy. I never spoke to him, but I read some of his online works. And I concluded that I should share some of his ideas with a broader audience whenever I get a chance to. He's a really bright guy, and I think he may be quote unquote slept on, as we say within the hip hop community. So, the intervention I want to discuss is a low oxalate diet, okay? Um, a number of years ago, by the way, you should just look up what an oxalate is and what happens if you're not careful about, you know, the extent of your oxalate consumption. But a few years ago, I did in fact deal with kidney stones, and during that time, I felt frankly agonizing pain for somewhere between 30 to 45 seconds when I was passing little kidney stones, and I discovered that I'm personally quite sensitive to oxalates, and this is part of why I don't consume a standard American diet. I also have a sensitive stomach. So, I pretty much never eat anything at all that you would stick in a freezer for days or weeks before you consume it. And I almost never consume, most kinds of fast food because it messes with my tummy. So, in some sense, you could say I'm kind of blessed with a system that does not accept certain forms of prol feed, you could say, or prol slop. Um, Now, this low oxalate diet does not require immense amounts of money or planning. Okay, you can just kind of make a list of your standard grocery items and minimize your oxalate consumption. It shouldn't take you more than a couple of hours to come up with something that suits your budget. And if you do nothing else to avoid kind of catastrophically destabilizing pain, you at least want to have something like a low oxalate diet in your life. And, I'm going to kind of branch off into other topics here that are not related, but there's something that I want you to think about if you are haunted by pain from your past, okay? And it's that forgiveness is not, the generic kind of cliche quote says, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for yourself because it gives you peace. But peace is something you would access in the present and in subsequent moments. What I want you to think of is that forgiveness can be an immense cognitive enhancer. And I realized this upon reflecting on one of my favorite books, even though I hated its protagonist, okay? It's called A Personal Matter by Kenzaburo Oe. And I realized that, like, if I could sit down and kind of force myself to empathize with someone like that, and the book is actually one of the few informational instruments that got me to believe in, the plausibility of so-called empaths. I believe Kenzaburo Oe could be a legitimate empath. It's just, I could also then, experience sort of an empathetic concern for the guy who put me through immense amounts of pain just through what I would call kind of an iatrogenic mistake rather than a conscious intention to impose severe harm upon me, okay? So ask yourself, like, if I was never randomly prompted or forced to dwell upon past pain again, what would I be able to dream up? What would I be able to plan and achieve? It's something. Your ability to construct some kind of monumental achievement will not become clear to you until you don't have to kind of ruminate over any form of past pain at all for the rest of your life, okay? So confronting this idea is something that prompted me to develop a certain degree of respect for people who regard forgiveness as a kind of almost like a religious virtue. There's it might be a line from like the Talmud or maybe another Jewish text, but it basically says, through not seeking retribution, one makes it so that all of one's sins will be ignored in the sort of divine judgment or something, or the heavenly tribunal that meets one, in the future. So that's important for me to think about. I don't naturally walk around in a state of like holding grudges against anyone, but if I get stressed out, if I'm poorly rested, if I'm not, well hydrated or eating properly, then obviously I succumb to states of dysregulation that I think are unworthy of someone with my private missions. So it's something for you to chew on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Stay sharp and sober, and God bless you.